What would be a funny thing to say to a surgeon before anesthesia kicks in 5 seconds later? I had broken my wrist and was being put under to have 4 pins inserted. They gave me my anesthesia through a knife. I felt coldness spreading up my arm and across my chest. The nurse asked how I was doing and I said this must be what dying feels like. I heard her say, "Oh my god," then I was out. Bro, I actually have a relevant story that happened recently. As I was getting ready to go under, they were placing a device in my mouth to keep me from biting down on the scope they were going to use for the endoscopy. Think medical ball gag, but a hard plastic ring instead of a ball. As the gal was placing it and I asked, "Wait, what's the safe word?" I heard a good amount of laughing as the world turned to black. This is amazing. Related comment but doesn't really answer the question. My dad was in the middle of a surgery repairing some pretty nasty damage on his wrist after a skiing accident. He was under heavy anesthesia but the surgeons were having serious trouble with the screws in his wrist, which apparently jarred him around enough to wake up. He noticed their struggles and managed to say righty tighty, lefty loosey, then he passed back out. I'm told that when I was out having one of my fingers patched up and another reattached after a table saw accident, I asked the surgeon if the drill he was using to put screws in my hand was a DeWalt or a Ryobi. Once a tool man, always a tool man. I had just woken up after having my shoulder worked on. I was in and out of consciousness for a bit and just generally freaking whacked out. I guess I shifted in the bed and moved the blankets a bit and exposed myself as the nurse came in. She smiled and moved the blankets back. I apparently told the nurse, "You saw mine. Do I get to see yours?" My wife was in the chair next to the bed. I remember thinking the nurse was smoking hot. I woke up and she told me she was flattered. I have no idea what I said. Before going under for wisdom teeth, the doctors said I might feel funny. They pushed the drugs and asked if I felt any different. My butthole, and only my butthole, began to itch like crazy, and it was hot, not warm. Hot like I just ate peppers with my butt. I told them my butthole is itching like crazy. The assistant was really bad at holding back a laugh. The doc resisted mightily, but he too succumbed to my newly discovered butthole emotions. They actually gave me some kind of drug that had the exact same effect when I had surgery. They warned me prior, though, and I kind of laughed it off until it actually happened. As the anesthesiologist was putting me under, he just said I'd start to feel sleepy soon. I asked him, aren't I supposed to be counting back from 100 or something? He replied, I don't know, I must have skipped that class. Being an anesthesiologist must be awesome as you can always get the last word in. I was being put under for a wisdom tooth extraction a few years back, and it was the first time I've ever had anesthesia. They used injection method rather than gas, so they told me to watch the fluids going in so I could gauge when I'd feel sleepy. I had this idea that I would say something like, "Oh no, doc, I've lost my eyesight," or something else preposterous. Before I could collect my thoughts, I just immediately blurted Welsh. My voice progressively getting lower, and passed out. Last time I went under, as I started to fade, I said, "You're gonna have to drive. I'm fricked up." Probably came out, "You're gonna have a drive. I'm fucked up." Method acting. I like it. Waking from anesthesia one time, I heard someone say his blood pressure is a little high, then I mumbled that'd be the anesthetist assistant's fault. They then kinda startled, asked quickly, "Why is that?" Becoming slightly more coherent, I continued with, "She's really hot." They all laughed and said he'll be fine and released from theater. So after my dad had a triple bypass and was just waking up and they had removed the breathing tube, I was in the room with him. I said something along the lines of, "Everything went perfect with your surgery, Dad. No problems." My dad in his drug haze said that is because I am a perfect specimen of the human male, and it couldn't have gone any other way. Nurses were cracking up. When I got my wisdom teeth removed, "Doctor, alright, so you feeling that sedative yet?" Me, "Yeah, a little bit. I bet I can stay awake though." "How long can people usually fight it?" "Doctor, not long. Good night." Me, blackout. I remember laughing when I woke up because that was the last thing I remember. My surgeon told me to think of a happy place. Then he asked me where it was. The Simpsons kicked in, and I told him it was the happiest place on earth. Tijuana. I didn't stay awake long enough to see if he got the reference. Tahiti, it's a magical place. I had to get some surgery that involved cutting open my head. Right before they gassed me, I said, I should warn you, there's a spooky skeleton in there. The last thing I remember is his response of I'll try to look out for that. Doot doot. When I got my wisdom teeth out, the dentist's office was right next to a funeral home. I told the guy that if anything went horribly wrong, they could just take me next door. Mother and doctor were not amused. Just throw me in the trash. As they were pushing the drugs they asked me to count backwards from 10. All I could say was, no. The room erupted in laughter and I was out. Freaking make me, doc. I had to have a pilonidal cyst removed from my butt crack and can remember giggling like a madman because I asked the entire operating room so, who drew the short straw and has to shave my butt? When I had my wisdom teeth removed and was given general anesthetic, I apparently said if this is what being on drugs is like, sign me up. He went and told on me to my mother. I actually did the same thing before both of mine. I managed to get out. I'll see you in the future doc. Or something. Either way once the drugs kicked in I didn't care. That's heavy. I asked for a tummy tuck while being wheeled in for a bowel resection. I said while you're cutting it open, just cut some off. Then when I was done my surgery, but still pretty messed up on drugs, I asked if I was skinny and then cried when my doctor told me he didn't give me a tummy tuck. Same doctor, different procedure, terribly inappropriate joke. Had to have a colonoscopy, so they gave me some medication where I was awake, but like, it was weird. Anyways, I was feeling silly and told him first time doing anal on camera, and I'm not even getting paid. I asked for a tummy tuck after both of my C-sections. Doc gave me the same answer each time. I make it work. I don't make it pretty. Right before I went under to have surgery on my septum, I was about to start counting backwards before they put the mask on. Does anyone need anything while I'm out? The last thing I remember was an all room full of people hysterically laughing. I'm gonna need to get surgery so I can use this. The other way around. I was cracking jokes with the nurses and anesthesiologist before a big surgery and everyone was laughing. Anesthesiologist turns to me and says, well, it's not fair that you're the only one not on anything, and then hit me with anesthesia and I was out. I said to my doctor during my wisdom teeth extraction, doc don't start I'm still awake, to which he said, we're already done. Those drugs are legit. For the record, my wife does not like it in the butt. Because I said this before my surgery. My wife is a nurse who works at the hospital I was in. I don't remember saying this, but her co-workers remember it. I told them that I hadn't pooped this morning and that if I crap on them, it's their fault for scheduling the surgery at 6 AM. Then I passed out. Last time I went under, started to feel a sort of paralysis and couldn't move. Me, whoa, did you give me something? Nurse, yes, relax and don't fight it. Me, okay, but you should sell this stuff in the gift shop. Everybody laughs. Surgeon, are you okay? Me, yeah, but I'm disappointed there's no cake. Surgeon, laughing. On the recovery notes write give the patient cake. Next thing I know I'm waking up in recovery with a slice of chocolate cake on the table next to me. Cake is a favorable alternative to death. My wife went to the dentist last weekend. After several shots of numbing she sang to him I can't feel my face when I'm with you. To the dentist's credit without batting an eyelid he replied in full voice cause I numbed it. You mean last weekend? When my appendix burst I was being wheeled in and as the doc was getting ready and I was about to pass out he said geez this is rusty and held up a scalpel. I could tell he was joking and off I went to sleep. When I woke up he came to check on me and the first thing he said was have you seen my watch? I crap you not. He was a very funny man and it really helped calm me down in a situation where I nearly died. Okay, so I know this is late in the thread, but when I was 15, I discovered that I could pull my foreskin back behind my penis head. Needless to say, my foreskin was so tight I opted for circumcision. My doctor, Dr. Lentz, was the funniest dude I've ever met. Told me my dong was gonna look like Frankenpenis for a month or two, but it's cool. Anyways, I am in the OR on Christmas Eve and I feel the anesthesia starting to kick in, and before Dr. Lentz walks out, I shout, "Slur doc, please, just take care of the little guy," and he stops, turns around, bows to me and says, as if he were my own. I laughed once then passed out. I was being wheeled into emergency abdominal surgery once and my girlfriend was with me. We're rolling down the hall and they have the mask out to put me under and I pause and say to her, "Don't let them touch my dong." The nurse smirked a little and they put the mask on me. In somewhat of a panicked fashion, I pulled the mask off, stared up at my girlfriend, and with full weight and seriousness told her they can look at it, but no touching. I heard the doctor laughing as the gas kicked in. This is particularly funny because they most certainly did touch your dong. With long surgeries under general anesthetic you need a catheter so you don't leak all over the sterile field. Sorry. Similar, I had some kidney stones, and they had to go up there to unblock my parts, if you know what I mean. As I was waking up from anesthesia, I apparently asked how many people saw my PP. A few minutes later, as I was a little more coherent, I asked the nurse what's the craziest thing she heard from someone waking up from anesthesia. Her answer, how many people saw my PP. Good times. I just went under this past week. I told my doctor I better not wake up with any dongs drawn on my face. The room had a laugh. I went to sleep, and they performed the worst magic trick ever and made a camera disappear up my butt. I remember being a celeb at a hospital after I said I love my girlfriend cause she got big titties. When I'd go in, I'd have doctors and nurses teasing me. I was 16 at the time. A couple of years ago while I was being prepped for bone surgery, I had good rapport with the anesthesiologist. My dad is one, and we kept talking about pain management and such. He pushed the dose of ketamine and propofol into my eye and my brain was getting foggy. I remember seeing him laughing his butt off as I went to sleep. When I woke up, my friend who was attending the surgery told me that while I was dosing off, I told the surgeon this is the very first time I tried ketamine non-recreationally. As I was going under for gallbladder removal, at the time 25-year male, the surgeon said, "Now you're not 40 fat frumpy and female are you? The most common demographic for gallstones." I replied no and I better not be when I wake up. They laughed so hard they had to put their tools down, and then he cut me. The anesthesiologist and all staff were not amused when I said frick this crap, ripped out my IV, rolled off of the table and collapsed on the floor. Before sedation, I was angry about the poor and uncomfortable placement of my IV. When the happy juice started flowing, my inhibitions disappeared. I didn't remember any of it, but the IV being in the other arm was the first thing I noticed when I woke up after surgery. Here's one that actually happened. My grandmother's sister was getting an epidural done for one of her children. When she came to, everybody involved couldn't stop giggling around her, and she had no idea why, until it comes out later that while she was doped, she had repeated one of my great-grandfather's favorite problems of logic. If you're shoved up to your neck backward up a sheep's butt, and there's a bear coming to eat ya, what do I do? Do you pull your head in, or bite the sheep's butt to make it run faster? It's a shame he died before I was born, that man. This is kind of relevant, but I recently had ankle surgery, and just after waking up I looked at everyone and said, "Already finished?" That was quick and they all looked at me with extremely annoyed looks on their faces and the surgeon said that took us 4 hours. Anesthetic is scary. When you wake up you haven't felt the time pass. People say being put to sleep, but it's more like being out of existence for a while. Here's my impression of my wife during sex. Doctor, not with me. The last time I tried to say something funny right before surgery, they were about to put me out and I said, "Go easy on me doc, it's my first time." I gave a little chuckle and so did the doctor. He then picked up a scalpel and said, "Don't worry, it's my first time too," and then I promptly blacked out. Surgeon's assistant here. I have, on many occasions, right as people are falling asleep said, "Quick, don't think about dragons eating you. No, don't do it. Their eyes get so big, and then out." He told me to get a gold watch to fix my watch rash. I told him we can't all be rich fricks like you. Or rather, we can LB rish F you lick you woo. They all got a good laugh as I passed out. I want my baby back, baby back, baby back. I want my baby back, baby back, baby back. Then the surgeon will be all pee the whole time because you never finished it. As soon as you wake up, try and muster re-ibs, chilies. Another version. I see you shiver with Anesthesia, and when you wake up, passion. The last time I had surgery was July of 2012. They asked me to count backwards from 10, and I did. Got all the way to 0. I kind of just stared at them. Someone asked me how school was going. All I remember was me saying it's summer and someone else responding with yeah Michelle, it's summer. I've never wanted to say anything, but because I'm usually getting a colonoscopy, I've always wanted to have a message on my butt for after I'm already under. Ideas have ranged from simple things like stop looking at my butt in Sharpie, to getting someone to do Michelangelo's creation of man on my butt, with God and Adam both pointing at my butthole. If I die on the table, I'm coming back to haunt you, mother. Unfortunately, it turns out I cannot control my volume when the drugs are starting to kick in, so I shouted that at the top of my lungs across a crowded pre-op room. Scared the heck out of the other patients. For everyone there, I'm sure that funny situation was instead a total shitshow. For me, however, that funny situation became freaking hilarious upon revealing that you screamed it. If I don't make it, tell my wife and kids that I wish I could have been a better father and that I will always love them. Me at 13 before getting circumcised. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.